For millions of viewers around the world, Dame Patricia Routledge will always be remembered as Hyacinth Bucket, the loud, proud, and endlessly ambitious social climber from the classic BBC sitcom, Keeping Up Appearances. With her sharp voice, perfect posture, and obsession with fine china, status, and royal connections, Hyacinth became one of the most unforgettable comedy characters in television history. The show made people laugh not just because of clever writing, but because of Patricia Routledge's brilliant performance. She turned Hyacinth into a character who was not only funny, but strangely human. Yet behind all that laughter, many fans have wondered, what really happened to Dame Patricia Routledge after Keeping Up Appearances ended, and why does her story feel quietly sad to so many? To understand what came after, it is important to first understand who Patricia Routledge was before fame found her in such an overwhelming way. Born on February 17, 1929, in the working-class area of Tranmere, Birkenhead, England, Patricia grew up in a modest but caring home. Her father, Isaac Routledge, worked as a haberdasher, selling clothes to local people, while her mother, Catherine, kept the household running with discipline, warmth, and strong values. Life was not glamorous, but it was stable. From a young age, Patricia learned the importance of hard work, honesty, and humility, values that would shape her entire life and career as a child. Patricia showed a natural love for storytelling and performance. She enjoyed entertaining others, putting on small shows, and speaking confidently in front of people. Teachers quickly noticed that she had a special presence. She was not just loud or dramatic. She had control, timing, and a deep understanding of emotion. These early signs encouraged her to pursue acting seriously, even though it was not an easy or common path for someone from her background. With determination and talent, Patricia earned a place at the prestigious Bristol Old Vic Theatre School, one of the most respected acting institutions in the United Kingdom. A.T. Bristol. Patricia trained in classical theater, learning discipline, voice control, movement, and emotional depth. This was not comedy training alone. She studied Shakespeare, serious drama, and stage performance, building a strong foundation that would later allow her to switch easily between comedy and serious roles. For Patricia, acting was never about fame. It was about craft. She believed deeply in respecting the work, the audience, and the story being told. This mindset would later influence how she handled sudden worldwide fame. Before television audiences ever met Hyacinth Bucket, Patricia Routledge had already built a respected career on the stage. She performed in major classical plays and became known for her powerful voice and commanding presence. Critics praised her ability to bring realism and depth to every role, whether she was playing a dramatic character or delivering sharp comedy. She also found success in musical theater, eventually winning a Tony Award in 1968 for her role in Darling of the Day on Broadway. This achievement alone marked her as a serious and accomplished performer long before television comedy changed her public image forever. When Keeping Up Appearances premiered in 1990, Patricia was already in her 60s, an age when many actors struggled to find meaningful roles. The success of the show was sudden and massive. Hyacinth Bucket became a global symbol of social ambition and denial, and Patricia Routledge became instantly recognizable everywhere. While audiences laughed, few realized that the sudden fame would quietly reshape her life in ways that were not always joyful. And as the applause grew louder, a new question slowly formed behind the scenes. What happens when one role becomes bigger than the artist herself? When Keeping Up Appearances became a worldwide success, Dame Patricia Routledge experienced a level of fame she had never known before. The show was broadcast in dozens of countries and quickly became one of the most exported BBC programs of all time. Viewers everywhere recognized Hyacinth Bucket's voice, manners, and famous correction, its bouquet. And many of them saw Patricia and Hyacinth as the same person. While this kind of recognition is something many actors dream of, for Patricia, it brought mixed emotions. She was proud of the work she had done, but she also understood the danger of being remembered for only one role. Hyacinth Bucket was a character larger than life. She was loud, demanding, and completely obsessed with appearances, class, and social status. Patricia played her with such precision that audiences could not imagine anyone else in the role. However, this success created a quiet problem. Casting directors, producers, and even fans began to see Patricia only as Hyacinth. Offers for other kinds of roles became fewer, and when they did appear, they often asked for the same type of character, pushy, exaggerated, and comic. For an actress trained in classical theater and serious drama, this was deeply limiting. Patricia Routledge had always believed that an actor should grow, explore, and change. She had spent decades playing complex women on stage, performing Shakespeare, serious monologues, and emotional dramas. Now, despite her long and respected career, many people treated her as her artistic journey began and ended with Hyacinth Bucket. This was not something she openly complained about, but in interviews, she made it clear that she did not want to be trapped by one character, no matter how beloved that character was. Behind the laughter, there was also exhaustion. Playing Hyacinth required intense energy, perfect timing, and constant control. The character never rested, and neither did Patricia while performing her. As the years passed, the physical and emotional demands of the role became harder. The fame also brought constant public attention. People expected her to behave like Hyacinth in real life, to be loud, bossy, and funny at all times. Taxi drivers, strangers, and fans would joke with her as if she were the character, not the woman behind it. While Patricia often laughed along politely, this constant misunderstanding slowly wore her down. Another quiet sadness came from the way comedy is often treated compared to drama. Despite the skill required to make millions laugh, comedy actors are not always taken seriously. Patricia's deep theatrical background was sometimes forgotten, replaced by a single exaggerated image. This was especially painful because she had worked so hard to build a career based on discipline, respect for craft, and emotional truth. She did not regret playing Hyacinth, but she did regret that many people never looked beyond her. When Keeping Up Appearances ended in 1995, Patricia faced a difficult decision. She could continue chasing television roles that might repeat the same pattern, or she could step back and choose projects that truly mattered to her. This moment marked a turning point. Instead of clinging to fame, she chose dignity. She returned to the stage, took part in thoughtful television dramas, and performed powerful monologues such as Alan Bennett's Talking Heads. These roles reminded audiences and herself that she was far more than a sitcom character. Yet even as she moved on professionally, the shadow of Hyacinth Bucket never completely disappeared. For many fans, Patricia Routledge would always be that woman from Keeping Up Appearances. This was not a cruel fate, but it was a bittersweet one. To be loved so deeply for a single role is a gift, but it can also feel like a cage. Patricia accepted this reality with grace, but it played a quiet part of her decision to eventually step away from the spotlight altogether. As Dame Patricia Routledge moved into the later years of her career, she began to think seriously about what it meant to keep performing. Unlike many actors who fear retirement, Patricia saw stepping away as a thoughtful and even brave choice. After decades on stage, television, radio, and film, she felt she had said what she needed to say as an artist. Fame had given her opportunities, but it had also taken much of her privacy and peace. Rather than waiting for roles to slowly disappear or her performances to be judged unfairly because of age, she decided to leave while her work was still respected and admired. For Patricia, retirement was not about giving up. It was about control. She had spent her life bringing other people's words to life, but now she wanted to choose how her own story would continue. She often said that an actor should know when to leave, not because they are no longer capable, but because they want their legacy to remain strong. This decision showed a quiet wisdom. In an industry that often pushes artists to stay visible at all costs, Patricia chose dignity over attention. There was also an emotional side to this choice. Acting had been a major part of her identity since childhood. Walking away meant letting go of applause, routines, rehearsals, and the shared energy of live performance. This was not easy. Even though she rarely spoke about sadness directly, it is clear that leaving something you love always brings a sense of loss. The stage had been her second home, and stepping away meant accepting a quieter life. For someone used to constant creative activity, silence can feel strange. Aging also played a role in this chapter of her life. Patricia was always honest about growing older and the physical challenges that come with it. Long rehearsals, travel, and demanding roles become harder over time. Rather than fighting against nature, she chose to respect it. This decision reflected her deep self-awareness. She understood that value does not disappear with age, but the way one contributes can change. Instead of performing constantly, she focused on reflection, mentorship, and appreciation for the arts. Even in retirement, Patricia did not completely disappear. She continued to support theater, lend her voice to radio projects, and attend important cultural events when she could. She remained connected to the artistic world, but on her own terms. This balance allowed her to stay involved without the pressure of public expectations. In many ways, this phase of her life was calmer and more personal than anything she had experienced before. However, for fans watching from the outside, her absence felt sad. People who had grown up watching her on television missed her presence. In a world where celebrities are expected to stay visible forever, Patricia's quiet retreat felt unusual. Some viewers interpreted her silence as loneliness or loss, even though she had chosen herself. This is where the sadness in her story truly lives. Not in tragedy, but in the general realization that all performances must eventually end. Patricia Routledge's retirement also highlights a larger truth about fame. Applause is loud, but it does not last forever. When the cameras turn away, what remains is the person, not the character. Patricia seemed to understand this better than most. She had built her life around values, not attention. When she stepped away, she did so with grace, accepting that being remembered is different from being seen. I end this quieter chapter. Her story became less about entertainment and more about reflection. She had given audiences laughter, thought, and emotion for many years. Now, she allowed herself the freedom to rest, to observe, and to live without performing. This choice may not be dramatic, but it is deeply human. And perhaps that is why her story feels sad to some. Not because it ended badly, but because it reminds us that even the brightest stages eventually fade into silence. Even after stepping away from regular acting, Dame Patricia Routledge did not fade from public respect or cultural importance. In fact, the years following her retirement brought some of the most meaningful recognition of her entire career. These honors were not just rewards for popularity, but acknowledgments of a lifetime dedicated to the performing arts. They confirmed what many in the industry had always known. Patricia Routledge was not simply a television star, but a true artist whose work shaped British culture across generations. In 2017, Patricia was made a Dame Commander of the Order of the British Empire. This is one of the highest honors in the United Kingdom, and is given to individuals who have made exceptional contributions to national life. For Patricia, this moment was deeply emotional. She spoke openly about how she laughed and cried when she received a letter informing her the honor. To her, becoming a dame was not about status or title. It was a recognition of decades of discipline, dedication, and love for the craft of acting. It also felt like a moment of closure, marking the end of a long and meaningful chapter. What made this honor especially powerful was a contrast between the title and the woman receiving it. Hyacinth Bucket had spent her life chasing recognition, class, and status, often in ridiculous ways. Patricia Routledge, by contrast, had never chased fame. The honor came to her because of quiet excellence, not ambition. This irony was not lost on fans, many of whom saw it as a beautiful reflection of who she truly was. Further recognition followed in later years. In 2022, Patricia was made an honorary member of the Royal Academy of Music. This award celebrated her lifelong connection to performance, voice, and musical theater. It also highlighted her influence on younger generations of artists. Patricia had always believed in supporting new talent, and this honor showed that her impact went beyond her own performances. She had become a symbol of what a long, respectful, and meaningful artistic career could look like. Despite these achievements, Patricia remained humble. She often said that awards were never the reason she worked. What mattered to her were the relationships she built, the stories she told, and the audiences she reached. Friends and colleagues describe her as grounded, kind, and thoughtful. She never behaved like a celebrity, even when the world treated her like one. This humility became an important part of her legacy, making her admired not only for her talent, but also for her character. As time passed, Patricia's legacy continued to grow in quiet ways. Reruns of Keeping Up Appearances introduced new generations to Hyacinth Bucket, while theater lovers continued to study her stage work and monologues. Young actors looked to her career as an example of how to balance success with integrity. She proved that it was possible to be famous without losing oneself and respected without constantly seeking attention. There's a gentle sadness in the stage of her life, but it is not rooted in regret. It comes from the passage of time and the understanding that even the most successful careers must eventually become memories. Patricia accepted this truth with grace. She allowed her work to speak for her, trusting that it would endure even when she no longer stood in the spotlight. In many ways, Dame Patricia Routledge's story challenges modern ideas of success. She did not measure her life by headlines or constant visibility. Instead, she focused on meaning, quality, and respect. Her honors were not loud celebrations, but quiet acknowledgments of a life well lived. And in that quiet dignity lies the true power of her legacy. As Dame Patricia Routledge entered her 90s, public appearances became rare, and each one carried a strong emotional weight for those who admired her. For fans who had grown up watching her energetic performances, seeing her older and quieter was both moving and difficult. Aging is a natural part of life. Yet when it happens to someone who once filled screens with energy and voice, it reminds audiences of time's unstoppable passage. This is where much of the sadness connected to Patricia's story truly comes from. Not from loss of respect or relevance, but from the shared human experience of growing older. One of the most touching moments in her later years came during her appearance at a major Shakespeare celebration in London. Surrounded by fellow legends of British theater, Patricia's presence symbolized endurance, history, and artistic devotion. Though she appeared physically fragile and used a wheelchair, her dignity, grace, and intelligence remained clear. She listened carefully, smiled warmly, and spoke with the same thoughtfulness that had defined her career. For many in attendance, and for those who later saw images of the event, it was a powerful reminder that talent and influence do not disappear with age. These moments often feel sad to fans because they mark the distance between past and present. Viewers remember Patricia as Hyacinth Bucket, standing tall, speaking loudly, and controlling every situation. Seeing her in a quieter role, simply observing and reflecting, creates a strong emotional contrast. But this contrast is not something Patricia ever seemed ashamed of. She understood that life moves in chapters. Each stage has its own beauty, even if it lacks the excitement of earlier years. Patricia Routledge never tried to hide her age or pretend to be something she was not. She approached aging with honesty and acceptance. This attitude reflected her overall approach to life and art. She had always believed in truth, whether on stage or off. In a world that often pressures public figures to fight aging at all costs, her calm acceptance felt refreshing and deeply human. There's also a deeper reason why her later appearances feel emotional. For many fans, Patricia is connected to memories, family evenings watching television, laughter shared with loved ones, and a simpler time in life. As she grows older, those memories feel further away, and people project their own feelings about time and loss onto her image. In this way, the sadness people feel is often not about Patricia herself, but about their own changing lives. Despite stepping back from the spotlight, Patricia remained engaged with the arts. She continued to support theater education, encourage young performers, and speak about the importance of creativity in society. Her role had shifted from performer to symbol, a living reminder of dedication, discipline, and love for craft. Even without new roles, she continued to teach simply by example. The quiet dignity of her later years also challenges the idea that value comes only from productivity. Patricia's worth did not disappear when she stopped acting. Instead, it transformed. She became a figure of reflection, showing that a life devoted to art leaves traces that continue long after performance ends. This is a lesson that resonates deeply, especially in an age that often forgets to honor elders. While some may describe her story as sad, it may be more accurate to call it gentle and honest. There is no scandal, no dramatic fall, and no bitterness. There is only time, acceptance, and a quiet closing of a long chapter. Patricia Routledge did not disappear in failure or loneliness. She stepped back with grace, allowing her work to stand on its own in the end. The emotion surrounding her later years comes from love. People feel sad because they care, because she mattered, and because her presence meant something in their lives. And perhaps that is the greatest legacy any artist can leave behind. The story of Dame Patricia Routledge matters not because it is tragic, but because it is real. In a world that often celebrates constant success, endless visibility, and youth, her life offers a different and deeply important message. She showed that a career does not need to end in drama to be meaningful. Sometimes the most powerful stories are quiet ones. Stories about knowing when to step back, how to protect one's integrity, and how to let work speak for itself long after the spotlight fades. Patricia's journey reminds us that fame is not the same as fulfillment. At the height of keeping up appearances, she could have chased more television roles, extended the character of Hyacinth Bucket endlessly, or tried to remain visible at all costs. Instead, she chose balance. She understood that repeating the same success again and again can slowly reduce an artist's identity. By walking away at the right time, she protected both her career and her personal peace. This decision required courage, especially in an industry where many fear being forgotten. Another important lesson from Patricia's life is the value of craft over popularity. Long before television fame, she had already mastered her art through years of theater work, study, and discipline. That foundation allowed her to handle success without being consumed by it. She did not depend on applause to define her worth. This is why she could accept retirement without bitterness or regret. Her confidence came from knowing she had given her best. Her story also teaches us about aging with dignity. Patricia never treated growing older as something shameful. She accepted it as part of life and continued to contribute in ways that suited her strength and energy. In doing so, she offered a rare public example of graceful aging, one rooted in self-respect rather than denial. This approach is especially meaningful in a culture that often avoids conversations about aging altogether. For audiences, Dame Patricia Routledge represents more than a beloved character. She represents a generation of performers who believed in patience, preparation, and respect for storytelling. Her work continues to inspire actors, writers, and viewers because it was honest. Whether playing a serious role on stage or a comic one on television, she always brought truth to her performances. That honesty is what keeps her work alive. The sadness many people feel when thinking about her later years is not a negative emotion. It is a reflection of connection. People mourn the passing of time because her presence was part of their lives. This kind of sadness is tied to gratitude. It means her work mattered enough to be missed. In that sense, her story is not about loss, but about impact. Dame Patricia Routledge may no longer perform, but her influence continues through reruns, stage recordings, interviews, and the many artists she inspired. Her voice still echoes in the laughter of audiences discovering keeping up appearances for the first time. Her values live on in performers who choose quality over fame and meaning over attention. In the end, what happened to Dame Patricia Routledge after keeping up appearances is not a story of decline, but completion. She lived a full artistic life, stepped away on her own terms, and left behind a body of work that continues to give joy and insight. Her journey reminds us that a truly successful career does not need a dramatic ending, only honesty, purpose, and the courage to know when the story has been told. Although the world most strongly associates Dame Patricia Routledge with Hyacinth Bucket, her life story goes far beyond that single character. One of the most remarkable things about Patricia is how firmly she refused to let one role define her entire identity. This was not because she disliked Hyacinth or felt embarrassed by the character. On the contrary, she respected the role deeply and understood why it connected with so many people. But she also knew that reducing a long and varied career to one image would be unfair to herself, to her training, and to the art she loved. From the very beginning, Patricia Routledge approached acting as a profession, not a shortcut to fame. She believed in preparation, study, and discipline. This belief stayed with her throughout her life. Even when keeping up appearances brought her worldwide recognition, she continued to speak about theater, classical acting, and the importance of storytelling. She often reminded interviewers that television fame is temporary, but good work lasts. This mindset protected her from becoming lost in celebrity culture. One reason her post-keeping up appearances life feels emotionally complex is because she did not follow the usual path expected of famous actors. Many performers try to remain visible at all costs, appearing in talk shows, advertisements, and constant new projects. Patricia chose the opposite. She valued privacy, reflection, and quality over constant exposure. To modern audiences, this choice can seem sad or mysterious, but in reality, It was deeply intentional. Her decision also highlighted a problem faced by many actors who achieve massive success later in life. When fame arrives after decades of hard work, it can feel strangely disconnected from the person who earned it. Patricia had already formed her identity long before Hyacinth Bucket existed. She was not searching for validation, which allowed her to step away without fear. But for the public, watching someone willingly leave fame often feels uncomfortable because it challenges our ideas about success. Patricia Routledge also understood the emotional cost of being constantly associated with one character. While fans loved Hyacinth, they often struggled to see Patricia as anything else. This kind of typecasting can quietly erase an artist's broader achievements. Rather than fighting this perception endlessly, Patricia accepted it with grace and focused on what she could control: her choices, her values, and her peace of mind. Another important part of her story is how she handled admiration. She never spoke badly about fans or about the show that made her famous. Instead, she expressed gratitude while gently reminding people that actors are more than their most popular roles. This balance is rare. Many either reject their famous characters or become trapped by them. Patricia found a middle ground, and that balance defines her legacy. As years pass, her public image slowly shifted from performer to elder stateswoman of the arts. She became a symbol of dedication, professionalism, and quiet strength. Younger artists looked to her not just for inspiration, but for guidance on how to survive a long career without losing oneself. In this way, her influence actually grew stronger after she stopped performing. The emotional weight of her story lies in its honesty. There is no dramatic fall, no public scandal, and no sudden disappearance. Instead, there is a gentle withdrawal, guided by wisdom and self-respect. This kind of ending is rare in entertainment, which is why it feels unfamiliar and sometimes sad. To audiences, in truth, Dame Patricia Routledge did not lose her place in the world when she left the screen. She simply moved into a different role, one of reflection, influence, and lasting presence. Her life shows that it is possible to be remembered not just for how loudly you were seen, but for how deeply you mattered in today's world. Success is often measured by visibility. The more someone appears on screens, social media, and headlines, the more successful they are believed to be. Dame Patricia Routledge's life challenges this idea in a powerful way. After achieving worldwide fame through keeping up appearances, she chose a path that many people struggle to understand: a quieter life away from constant attention. This choice did not come from fear or failure, but from confidence and clarity. She knew who she was, what she valued, and what she no longer needed to prove. That Patricia's decision to live quietly after such public success highlights a deeper truth about fulfillment. Fame brings admiration, but it also brings pressure, expectations, and loss of privacy. For someone like Patricia, who had spent her life respecting craft and discipline, the noise of celebrity culture was never the goal. Acting was her passion, not public recognition. Once she felt she had completed her artistic journey, she allowed herself to step back without apology. This idea of quiet success can feel uncomfortable to audiences because it forces us to question our own beliefs. We are used to stories of people fighting to stay relevant, chasing new projects, and clinging to attention. Patricia's story offers a different ending, one where success is defined by peace, self-respect, and completion. There is no dramatic farewell performance or emotional public announcement. Instead, there's a gentle fading, guided by choice rather than circumstance. Another reason her later life feels emotional is because it mirrors something universal. Everyone, no matter how famous, eventually faces a moment when they must step back from roles that once defined them. Careers end, abilities change, and priorities shift. Watching Patricia go through this process reminds people of their own futures. The sadness felt by fans is often mixed with admiration because she handled this transition with honesty and dignity. Patricia Routledge also reminds us that contribution does not stop when visibility does. Even without new performances, her influence continues through education, mentorship, and inspiration. Young actors study her performances. Theater lovers revisit her work, and audiences continue to laugh at Hyacinth Bucket. Her presence remains strong, even in absence. This is a mark of true impact. There's also something deeply respectful in how she allowed her work to age naturally. She did not try to rewrite her legacy or reinvent herself for a new generation. She trusted that good work would survive on its own. In doing so, she showed confidence not only in her abilities, but in the audience's intelligence and memory. This trust is rare in an age where many fear being forgotten. Her story also highlights the importance of knowing one's limits. Patricia understood the physical and emotional demands of performance. Rather than pushing herself beyond what felt right, she listened to her body and her instincts. This decision reflects a healthy relationship with work, one based on sustainability rather than exhaustion. It sends an important message, especially to younger generations, about respecting personal boundaries. The sadness surrounding Dame Patricia Routledge's later years is therefore layered. It is not the sadness of loss, but the sadness of reflection. It is the feeling that comes when we recognize the end of a chapter that meant something to us. At the same time, it is filled with gratitude for the laughter, the lessons, and the example she has EDI in a noisy world that often mistakes attention for value. Patricia's life stands as a reminder that true success can be quiet. It can be steady, thoughtful, and complete. Her story encourages us to rethink what it means to live well, to work with purpose, and know when it is time to step away. Dame Patricia Routledge's story will continue to inspire future generations of actors, artists, and audiences alike because it demonstrates the enduring power of dedication, humility, and authenticity. Unlike many performers whose fame fades quickly, Patricia's influence has been built on decades of careful work, attention to craft, and a deep respect for the arts. Her career teaches young artists that talent alone is not enough. What truly matters is persistence, discipline, and the courage to make thoughtful choices about your career. By prioritizing quality over quantity, she showed that a meaningful life in the arts is not measured by constant exposure, but by the impact of the work itself. For those entering the performing arts today, Patricia's example is especially valuable. She balanced television, film, stage, and radio with precision, never allowing one success to overshadow another. This versatility is a lesson in resilience and adaptability. Actors often feel pressure to specialize or stick to one type of role, but Patricia demonstrated that embracing variety strengthens both skill and reputation. Her work in classical theater, musicals, television sitcoms, and monologues shows that no part of the arts is too small or too serious to be meaningful. Every role, every performance, and every story has value if approached with honesty and dedication. Her legacy extends beyond her own performances. Throughout her career, she has actively supported younger performers, sharing advice and mentoring the next generation of artists. This support includes practical guidance, such as navigating auditions and understanding character development, as well as emotional encouragement, helping artists maintain their passion and confidence in the face of rejection or public pressure. Many of today's emerging actors owe part of their success to Patricia's generosity and her belief in cultivating talent. In doing so, she has ensured that her impact will last long after her final performance. Moreover, Patricia Routledge's life highlights the importance of leaving the spotlight with dignity. Stepping away from fame is not always easy, but she approached it deliberately, valuing her personal life and the integrity of her career. By choosing to retire while still respected and admired, she protected her legacy. This is an important lesson for anyone pursuing a career in the arts or any field, where public attention can be fleeting. Success is not only about reaching a peak. It is also about knowing when to step back and preserve the value of your contributions. Her work also provides lessons for audiences. Many people remember Hyacinth Bucket not only for her comedic brilliance, but for the humanity Patricia infused into the character. Hyacinth's flaws, pretensions, and quirks were made relatable because Patricia played her as a real person, not a caricature. This approach encourages viewers to see art as more than entertainment. It can be a mirror that reflects the complexities of human behavior. Patricia's careful balance of humor, pathos, and realism shows that comedy can be profound, and that characters can teach lessons about society while still making us laugh. Even beyond acting, Patricia's dedication to promoting and supporting the arts shows that influence can take many forms. She has advocated for arts education, mentoring programs, and opportunity for young artists from diverse backgrounds. By using her fame and experience to expand access to creative expression, she has shown that success is not only about personal achievement, but also about contributing to a larger community. Her efforts ensure that future generations will not only inherit her work, but also the chance to create their own. Finally, Patricia Routledge's life is a testament to the enduring value of humility and integrity. Despite decades of awards, recognition, and global fame, she has consistently remained grounded, approachable, and sincere. This combination of brilliance and modesty makes her story resonate across generations. Fans do not only admire her acting, they admire her as a person who remained true to herself. Even in the face of international fame, in the years to come, audiences and artists alike will remember Dame Patricia Routledge not just as the iconic Hyacinth Bucket, but as a model of dedication, wisdom, and balance. Her story shows that lasting impact comes from passion, discipline, generosity, and the courage to make thoughtful choices. It proves that while fame may fade, the lessons learned, the influence given, and the joy created through art can endure forever. Looking back at Dame Patricia Routledge's life and career, it becomes clear that her journey was far more than the story of one beloved television character. Hyacinth Bucket may have captured the world's laughter, but Patricia's life tells a story of discipline, integrity, and purpose. From her humble beginnings in Birkenhead to the stages of the Bristol Old Vic and the theaters of London and Broadway, she built a career rooted in talent, perseverance, and a deep love for her craft. Every role she chose, whether dramatic or comedic, carried the mark of careful study and authenticity. Her career reminds us that true success is not measured by fleeting fame, but by the lasting impact of meaningful work. Even after the height of her public recognition, Patricia chose to step back on her own terms. This choice might seem unusual in an industry obsessed with visibility, but reflects a rare wisdom. She understood that stepping away does not mean giving up. Rather, it is an act of preserving one's legacy, protecting the integrity of the work, and allowing the art itself to shine. She embraced a life of quiet influence, mentoring young performers, supporting the arts, and attending cultural events that inspired her, all while maintaining her personal peace. This deliberate choice demonstrates that career fulfillment is about balance, self-respect, and thoughtful decision-making. Patricia Routledge's impact reaches beyond her performances. Through her advocacy for arts education, mentorship programs, and cultural outreach, she has ensured that future generations will have opportunities she might never have had as a young performer. She has encouraged aspiring actors, writers, and musicians to pursue their passions, to work diligently, and to value craft above mere recognition. Her contributions show that influence is measured not only by personal achievement, but by the capacity to nurture talent, inspire creativity, and enrich the cultural community. In this sense, her legacy is alive, growing, and multiplying with every artist she has guided. Her story is also a profound lesson for audiences. Watching Hyacinth Bucket or seeing Patricia in theatrical roles teaches more than laughter or admiration. It teaches respect for artistry, patience, and human complexity. Her performances were never shallow or purely entertaining. They reflected a deep understanding of character, society, and human emotion. Even as she left television screens behind, her work continues to educate and entertain. Reminding audiences of the value of careful craft and thoughtful storytelling. One of the most inspiring aspects of Patricia's journey is her humility. Despite decades of fame, international recognition, and prestigious honors, such as being made a Dame of the British Empire, she has always remained grounded. She values connection, mentorship, and the work itself over personal acclaim. She approaches life with grace, humor, and generosity, demonstrating that true achievement is inseparable from character. In every phase of her career, she chose to lift others while excelling in her own work, leaving behind a model of ethical, dedicated artistry. Ultimately, Dame Patricia Routledge's life shows that a remarkable career does not require constant attention or endless public exposure. It requires integrity, perseverance, humility, and a willingness to make thoughtful choices. It is built on talent, but fortified by discipline and character. Her story teaches that it is possible to achieve iconic fame, make a lasting impact, and still live a life of personal meaning and peace. She proves that stepping away at the right moment, mentoring others, and contributing to the arts with dedication can leave a legacy far greater than any single performance. As we reflect on her journey, we see more than an actress who brought joy to millions. We see a woman whose life embodies balance, purpose, and lasting inspiration. Dame Patricia Routledge's story is a reminder that the measure of success is not the noise we make, but the depth we reach, the lives we touch, and the legacy we leave behind. Her career, her choices, and her continued support of the arts will inspire artists and audiences for generations to come. In the end, what happened after Keeping Up Appearances is not sadness. It is a story of a life fully lived, a career carefully completed, and an enduring influence that will never fade. Dame Patricia Routledge, beloved for her iconic portrayal of the snobbish yet hilarious Hyacinth Bucket in Keeping Up Appearances, captured hearts worldwide with her comedic genius. But what happened after the curtains closed on her legendary role? Behind the laughter, her life took unexpected turns, from private struggles to heartfelt revelations. Her story is both inspiring and bittersweet, offering a glimpse into the woman beyond the teacups and gossip. Patricia Routledge was born on February 17, 1929, in Tranmere, a neighborhood in Birkenhead, England. She grew up in a working-class family where hard work and education were central to everyday life. Her father, Isaac Routledge, ran a small clothing store, while her mother, Catherine, managed a household and instilled principles of honesty and persistence. Patricia's childhood in a loving and hard-working home gave her a strong sense of humility and an enduring drive to succeed. From an early age, she loved storytelling and performing, participating in school plays and local theater productions. These early experiences ignited a passion for the arts that would shape her entire life. Recognizing her talent, Patricia pursued formal training at the prestigious Bristol Old Vic Theatre School. There, she studied classical methods and immersed herself in the rich history of British theatre. Her dedication and talent stood out, laying the foundation for a remarkable career. Patricia's first roles were on stage, where she performed in classic plays such as The Importance of Being Earnest and The Merchant of Venice. Audiences and critics alike were captivated by her ability to effortlessly transition between comedic and dramatic roles, demonstrating remarkable versatility and depth. As her fame grew in the 1960s and 1970s, Patricia expanded into television and film. She appeared in the popular British TV show Steptoe and Son, showing her range by playing diverse characters with charm and nuance. Her film roles, including To Sir, With Love with Sidney Poitier, earned her critical acclaim and reinforced her reputation as a strong, memorable performer. Despite success on screen, she never abandoned her first love, the stage. Her work in musical theater, particularly her Tony Award-winning performance in Darling of the Day in 1968, cemented her status as a world-class performer, admired for her ability to connect deeply with audiences in the early 1990s. Patricia's career took a defining turn when she became Hyacinth Bucket in Keeping Up Appearances. The role came unexpectedly. She discovered the script one evening at home and was immediately drawn to the character's obsession with class and perfection. Patricia loved the challenge of portraying a woman whose attempts at social ascension often went hilariously wrong. Hyacinth's quirks allowed Patricia to display sharp comic timing, blending humor with humanity, making the character painfully funny yet endearing. The show's first episode in 1990 was a hit, and Hyacinth quickly became a cultural icon, resonating with audiences worldwide. Despite the fame, Patricia was determined not to be typecast. She continued to seek diverse roles, such as her portrayal in Hyde and Shriek Investigates, an amateur detective character vastly different from Hyacinth. This role allowed her to explore dramatic and comedic skills, demonstrating her versatility and proving that she could move fluidly between genres. Patricia also returned to stage performances, including Alan Bennett's Talking Heads, where her command of monologues and ability to portray deeply nuanced characters won widespread acclaim. Entering retirement in the early 2000s, Patricia consciously chose to step back from the spotlight. She recognized that success was not about constant visibility, but about preserving the integrity of her work and embracing personal fulfillment. Even in retirement, she remained active in the arts, mentoring young performers, attending events, and lending her voice to radio projects. Her decision to retire gracefully reflected a mature understanding of both life and career. Sometimes the greatest triumph is knowing when to move on. That Patricia's impact extends far beyond her performances. She has been a tireless advocate for arts education, supporting mentorship programs and opportunities for young artists from diverse backgrounds.